doing that. Why do you think that they always try to say, oh, Beyonce, she's demonic? And then when I see like certain examples, like that's African spirituality right there. She's wearing an African headpiece. Are you calling Blackness, African spirituality, demonic? So why do you think that pastors and Christian influencers always say that about her?
Yeah, it's what she represents. They fear what she represents. Embracing her African heritage does not align with fundamentalist Christianity, even in the fundamentalist Black church.
Wow.
Which is why you have people like, Priscilla Schreier and other Black faith leaders who encourage, like Tony Evans, who encourage you to put your Christianity above your Blackness. I've seen so many of these different like Christian pastors say that Blackness is an idol because you're putting your Blackness over your Christianity and you're a Christian before you're Black. Let me tell you something. I don't get to wave my Christian card in any situation in this country. I don't when I get pulled over by the cops, I don't get to say, hey, I know I'm Black, but I'm a Christian first. So like that's not how that works.
I'm a pastor too.
Yeah, that's not how that works. And I'm not saying that simply from the perspective of data about police interactions with Black people. I'm talking about my own lived experience with police officers. Because a lot of times, people try to say that, oh, y'all are just feeding into these stories on television. Like, no, these stories represent our experiences. And my Christianity doesn't save me in those instances. So, yeah, I'm sick of people telling you got to put your Christianity over your Blackness. If you want to, you can. But the idea that it's idolatrous, if you identify as Black first, I was Black. I had this skin before I was a Christian. Wow. My people had a culture before we had Christianity. We had an identity before we had Christianity. But if you don't know your history, you'll say stupid shit like you supposed to be a Christian before you Black. So that pisses me off.
It does too, Pastor. I be trying to hold it down, man. But brother,
me off.
I'm with you 1,000%. Deep question on that, right? Do you believe that our ancestors who weren't exposed to Christianity could still make it to heaven?
At this stage in my life, I have reimagined what heaven can be. And I don't even look at it the same way. Yeah. I am so interested in creating whatever bit of heaven I can while I'm here and allow the afterlife to take care of itself. Yep. So I don't have solid afterlife beliefs like I used to. That, when you die,
we at the pearly gates.
Yeah, you either go up to heaven or you go down the hill. Like that was what I was raised with. Now my afterlife beliefs are much more fluid and I'm open to a lot of different things. I'm open to the idea of heaven, pearly gates, streets paved with gold, so on and so forth. Yeah. I'm open to that. I am open to eternal rest. I am open to reincarnation. Like I am open to a lot of different ways of believing. Here's what I also believe. I believe the spirit of my ancestors exists with me right now in this moment.
Agreed.
So whatever that means, ultimately, I don't know, but I definitely don't judge the eternal destination of my ancestors based on some hell theology that was created within the past 500 years.
Wow. Which is really like the blink of an eye when you think about human history.
Yeah.
Fairly new. Hearing that, Pastor, I think about too when people try to condemn Black folk for praising their ancestors. And when I say praise, I'm not saying on the same level as God. So I know it's somebody that's already ready to comment on that. But that pisses me off too, because every other culture respects their ancestors. But then for us, if we do that, it's idolatry. That's devil worship. But we had to come from somebody. And then let alone our people to still be here means that we had to come from somebody who was very strong. And then, Pastor, I think about all throughout the Bible, it talks about lineage. I think about Matthew chapter 1, verse 1. It gives you Jesus' lineage. So apparently acknowledging who you come from is very important. And that is also in the Bible. But how do you feel when you see Black Christians say that, where, oh, you're trying to put your ancestors on a pedestal? How do you feel about that approach?
I hate it. I hate it for them. And then I hate it for the people who are influenced by them, which is why I'm so loud.
Yeah.
I'm so loud in my ministry, because the people who are stigmatizing ancestor veneration are so loud. So I feel like somebody needs to be loud to counteract that.
Yeah.
Because it's so anti-Black. Like you just mentioned, there's so many experiences with ancestor veneration in the Bible. It's all throughout the Bible. And even Jesus, that's ancestor veneration. Like when we think about the story of our faith, he is a spiritual ancestor.
Wow.
He's a spiritual ancestor. And the altars in our churches say, "This do in remembrance of me." That's all ancestor veneration is.
Breaking up my body. Yeah.
Every time you come here, I just want you to remember me. That's veneration. So when I wear my dad, I don't have my dad's jewelry on today, but when I wear my dad's jewelry, it's ancestor veneration. I do that to remember him.
Wow.
When I wear my grandfather's bracelet, I do that to remember him. When I look at my grandparents' picture on the dresser at the house, I do that to remember them. That's veneration. So we have all of these different ways of venerating our ancestors, but fundamentalism tells you it's divine when we do it, but it's demonic when y'all do it. Wow. It's cool when we do it, but it's wrong when y'all do it. We're all doing it. We're all doing it. And if you're going to tell me that your half-baked religion supersedes my connection with my own ancestors, I reject that completely.
Yeah. Hearing that, Pastor, I think about TBN growing up, and I remember that they used to have like this one special about our forefathers, quote unquote, where they tried to connect Christianity with telling stories about George Washington. I'm like, you're talking about a slave owner, all of this stuff. But when they do it, they find a way to do it. So you were right on the money with that. On your page, seeing you talk about Black History Month, declaring it, right? We're in this age of DEI and everything is DEI, all of this. If a plane crashes, it's called DEI. Everything's blamed on that. Pastor, how can we as Black people in the church, provide a safe space for Black history? Because we aren't going to find that on the outside in schools and all those other things. So how do we find that in the Black church now?
Yeah, we got to create it. You know, we have to support those who are doing it and create it on our own. So there are people who teach Black history. That's what they do. That's where they put their energy. I follow some accounts on Instagram, and like all they do is spit Black history facts every day. Right. So what we can do as a community is support and undergird organizations like that, so that we can be educated about our own history in our own communities. But yeah, like most of my knowledge of Black history does not come from the education system. And I got 3 degrees. And most of what I learned about Black history did not happen in a classroom at a school. It was taught in my home, at my church, and then just educating myself along the way, reading books along the way that weren't even necessarily assigned to me. So yeah, we have to do the work of educating ourselves about our own history. Because if not, we'll allow the culture to shape it for us. Like the way we allow the propaganda about Black Lives Matter to destroy all of their momentum.
Mm-hmm.
Like Black Lives Matter had an opportunity to be such a massive movement.
They had it, man.
Such an opportunity, but the Black church wouldn't get with it because of 3 queer Black women who led it. Right there, Black women who were queer.
Respectability politics, right to what we were just talking about.
Right?
That's 2 strikes.
Can't do it.
3 actually. Yeah.
Can't do it, right? So there's so we allowed the smear campaign to dictate our perception of that entire movement because we didn't support it, because we be beefing with each other over identity markers.
Man, Kristian, let me tell you this, bro. This conversation is flowing. I know God, he is clearly in the room, because my next question to you, second to last question, was how do we make the Black church radical again? And hearing you talk about that kind of bleeds into that, because I'm not trying to throw any shade. Jamal Bryant, shout him out, all of that. But when I see Kamala Harris come there, and it's like, you haven't been here before. Do you even go to a Black church? If she does, okay, cool. But like, I don't see you at Black churches all the time, but then you're here now. Mm-hmm. Any politician, anytime it's election season, I see y'all for the vote, take the vote, I'm out. But everybody's trying to play it safe. I don't see Martin Luther King's, I don't see civil rights movement type of energy. How do we make the Black church radical again? Or do you think it's too far gone?
I think there's a lot to be said about what the government did to our leaders in the 20th century.
That's good.
So I always try to bring us back to that sobering reality that our government systematically assassinated, imprisoned, and excommunicated so many of our leaders in the 20th century. And we carry that collective trauma as a people. So I'm not surprised we don't have a Martin Luther King-like figure. We all watched him get assassinated for trying to help people come up. We all watched what they did to Fred Hampton and Malcolm X. Marcus Garvey was just pardoned last year.
And he was in jail here in Atlanta, actually.
You see what I'm saying? So I understand why we don't have those types of leaders, because this country has shown what it will do to that type of leader, which is why BLM in part stayed so decentralized. But in order for the Black church to become radical in its advocacy for Black rights and human rights, we're going to have to rethink our theology. We're going to have to rethink the theology that causes us to condemn our own for how they show up in the world and how they exist. We're going to have to rethink the misogyny and the misogynoir baked into our theology. We're going to have to rethink the homophobia baked into our theology, the transphobia baked into our theology, the ableism baked into our theology. We're going to have to rethink all of that so that we can actually be unified as a people. Because in the 20th century, queer people didn't feel like they had the space to be out and proud. It wasn't safe for them to be out and proud like that. So they got with the overall cause. You have people like Bayard Rustin who got with the overall cause because he felt like now isn't the time for me to make that the issue. Now is the time in 2025 where it's the issue. So let's deal with it as a people and stop condemning each other. because we can't, as a people, come together and tell all of our queer sibs to go back in the closet.